This is nice.
The cutest little cabin in the woods.
Yeah, and just, I think we should have been recording this from the beginning. Just both laying down in a bed, just having a really nice chill.
Looking at the sky printed doona that's attached to the ceiling.
It's actually very cute. I'm taking a photo right now. But yeah, no better way to chat about Strange, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. We love this accommodation, but you'll hear more about it in Wednesday because we're in Wednesday territory.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where we're recording Strange, which we finished our time with Strange today. So for us, the time we got to spend with Strange is driving from Three Forks up past Lake Flathead, or Flathead Lake, I should say, to Kalispell, where we stayed at the Lonesome Dove Ranch, which I found out was named as such because the cattle that they have on the ranch are descended from the actual movie star cattle that were in Lonesome Dove, the 6-hour epic movie starring a lot of people, but the only one I paid any attention to was Angelica Houston.
Oh, okay. Well, now you've got me interested.
I mean, it was like 25 billion men and like 2 women, and one of them was Angelica Houston. So.
Who, I mean, she's worth a lot of women.
Yep.
But yeah, still not good enough. If you're gonna have 2 women in your film, you'd want to make one of them fucking Angelica Houston.
That's true. She is the bomb.
She is. But we had an incredible time, and it's really kind of capped us off in a really beautiful way before we hit Seattle tomorrow and just kind of fall into the arms of loved ones and start, making our way down the West Coast before we head home.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Michael Earp.
And I'm Bailey Turner,
Welcome to Michael's Walk.
the podcast.
Michael's Walk is a road trip, a search for something. Spoilers! It's myself, and it was inside all along.
If only it were that simple.
Driven by Tori Amos's album, Scarlett's Walk, I'm recreating the journey Scarlett took in its 20th anniversary year.
I'll also be there.
With the loving and patient
Always patient.
support of Bailey and Teague Lee, 3 trans queers set out across America
That's 33 states in 55 days.
to connect with the songs, the land that inspired them, and the fans inspired by the songs. We'll talk music, travel, healing, and hope as we ask the questions: how do I heal from 15 years of coercive control and manipulation?
And what role does the music we listen to play in our own relationship narratives?
We've self-produced this podcast and trip.
You can support us via GoFundMe.
For the full story, head to michaelerp.net.
So these last couple of days, right up in the sort of top of Montana, have just been so rejuvenating and stilling of the spirit and just cosmetic and heavenly. We've had the best time.
We slept last night in a teepee.
We did.
And
It's fucking freezing.
it was pretty cold. And then my alarm clock went off at 6:30, and by which I mean...
You set your alarm for 6:30?
I did not. There was a turkey outside the tent. I didn't know it was a turkey because I had no idea what... I was like, what animal is making that noise? And then I get up, and I didn't actually see the turkey to begin with, but I did startle a deer and a fawn, gorgeous little fawn that jumped off into the across the fence and started staring back at me like, "What you gonna do about it?"
It's a very aggressive fawn.
Well, it was the mother fawn being like, "Don't you come over here," and I'm like, "No, you do you. I'm just gonna go do a pee." And then I sat down at the park benchy situation outside our TP and got some journaling done.
Lovely.
And while I was doing that, a turkey sort of gobbled its way across the lawn. And that's when I was like, oh, that's the noise I woke up to.
Yeah, right.
Damn you. But
beautiful.
it was quite lovely actually. This giant wild turkey just stalking through our campsite, and this robin redbreast flying around.
Oh gosh,
That was lovely
it was
too.
such a beautiful sight to be at. You know, bison and horses.
Yeah,
It's
the
just.
gorgeous horses.
But we headed to breakfast and bumped into Neil. Neil says
Yeah.
hi, by the way.
Neil says so, by the way.
And
Get me Neil on the line. Well, if you live in America and you want custom shower doors, Neil's your man. It's what
he is.
does.
That is what he does. He does customized shower doors.
And he's very, very good at it.
This is not sponsored content,
No.
we should say.
Just,
But
well, try and find working class Neil. I don't even know what his business is called, but
well, if he's done a good job at his business, we'll be able to find him. But he's based in the Carolinas, making these actually really beautiful sort of.
glass shower doors that fit whatever you need them to fit.
But yeah, we caught up with him again at breakfast and had a bit of a chat. He'd had quite an incredible night with a guitar and a campfire and all that sort of bojangles. But
we slept through that.
we did, thank God. If I wanted to
Kumbaya.
carouse around a campfire, I'd have stayed back in Adelaide with my family, pulling out the guitar and singing Delilah by Tom Jones at every opportunity my non-nog gets. But that's a whole other story.
Right.
Neil wasn't the only person who joined us for breakfast. We were also joined by Emmanuel. I believe his name was Emmett.
Yes. Yes.
Emmett or not Emmett, we are so sorry.
I'm terrible at names. I forget them the second anyone tells me them.
And you haven't found us on Instagram like you promised. So
It's only your fault.
Yeah, that's right. You've only yourself to blame. Shall
That you haven't
henceforth be
used
known
this
as
12
Emmett.
hours to stalk us online.
Oh dear. But no, we had this wonderful morning chatting with them. It was like kind of bumping into family, really, and they gave us some great advice because we were hoping to head to Glacier National Park.
But being the Aquarians we are,
We just thought, we'll wing it. We'll go with the flow. We'll get there. It'll be fine.
it turns out that the day passes that you have to book in order to drive into it had been booked out long before, and there was no chance of us getting one. But luckily, Emmanuel and Emmett were on hand, who had just done Glacier National Park the day before, and said, well, there's this gorgeous place on the east side of it called Two Medicine, and there's a lovely little lake and little hike that you could do, and so we put that in as our destination and drove the South Road through the mountains to get to
Stunning
the other
drive.
side, and my goodness, it was so beautiful.
It's like deep woods and huge mountains.
That's what I was going to say to open this episode. We have been just driving through mountains alongside rivers for like 6 months now, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, because that's certainly what it feels like.
Yeah, we've been in a 6-hour epic movie. Yeah. We'll be coming round the mountain when we come. We'll be coming. No?
How did you not go to She'll Be Down When the Mountain Lets Her Go?
It seemed too obvious.
Oh. Get out. Anyway,
But yeah,
we got to Medicine Lake, the upper lake, and it was so beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful lake we've been to so far.
It's a big call.
Which is a big call. We have been to a lot of stunning lakes.
Beautiful lakes with mountains reflected in them. But look, considering the experience that we had there, I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah. Like, okay, this is going to actually make a lot of people mad, but when we got there, we decided not to do a hike. We found a log that was right on the edge of the lake, and we took off our shoes and we put our feet in the delightfully warm water. And then we had our own little ritual, which we found a lot more cathartic than necessarily hiking through the woods would have been. Yeah, so...
Just take a moment to sit and reflect and talk about what it was that we still wanted to heal and what we were
Any
hoping to,
anxieties that we were feeling about anything, and
yeah, what we wanted to kind of let go of or leave behind or move on from. Yeah, a very strange-esque kind of moment, and what we wanted to manifest for the future, because I think it was our first. We've had this approach while we've been on tour that it's like, what is in Australia stays in Australia. We're not going to be thinking too much of home and or dealing with too much of our stuff. We're kind of putting that aside and just letting this experience take over. But today was kind of our day to identify the things that going home is going to mean for us, because it's only 9 days away, and probably by the time you listen to this podcast, we'll be at home.
Unless I just spend the 18 hours on the plane just publishing one after the other.
Which, you could do.
I could sleep as
Nah. No, dance, monkey, dance.
Dance, monkey, give us the content.
Whip, whip.
Mush, mush.
Right. So speaking of, this is our episode for Strange, which for both of us is intensely personal, and I know that this song really kind of is the heartbreak song of the whole album, and so anyone who has been through a broken heart definitely will have had a connection to this girl. For me, it speaks very directly. Strange and I have been very, very close since October, when my last relationship ended. And it ended in a way that Strange very accurately describes, going from literally, kissing each other goodnight and saying we loved each other, to the next day it being over. And waking up kind of the day after that, I remember the sensation of like my heart was on fire. It just, like I was burning alive, which I find it so fascinating that we really do feel real pain in our heart when love is lost. Which seems so odd, it's not a physical wound, but it's something about that part of our body that just knock the microphone while I'm at it, that just aches and tears, and I'll never forget that sort of moment of waking up and sort of searching for meaning, and kind of that moment where you wake up and you remember that it's real, and that that someone you really care for has made the decision to leave your life. And I don't want to sort of go into it with too much detail, because I still care very much for that person, and I don't want to sort of splash or provide any opportunity for people to draw any conclusions, or I don't want to cast aspersions on what that relationship was. At the end of the day, no one was there except us, and can sort of understand that. So so that Strange is very much about that relationship, and and the way that relationship ended. I could do a lyric by lyric breakdown, but we won't. But there were certainly moments, if I could pick out a few key ones from that very first verse. I thought I knew you well. This is someone who I was connected with so deeply. We really felt like the same person, and for it to kind of change so suddenly, and for that person to kind of become very swiftly a bit of a stranger to me, and me a stranger to him, caused me to question what was even going on. Like, what were you really looking for? What was I really looking for? And it was a situation where we were both kind of really in over our heads because of the situation, and a lot of forces outside of our control, like being in COVID lockdown, and hospitalizations, and sick relatives and friends, difficulty with income and earning, lost jobs because of the lockdown. So there was kind of a lot of impetus from him to bond, and that kind of just stay. You said, we'll build a nest, so I left my life, tried on your friends, and I opened up a lot of my space in my home. And so it really was. So when those bridges froze and you did not come home, it really felt like suddenly there just was no access point for me to come into his life, or for him to come back into mine. And putting our snowflake under a microscope is sort of what I'm doing now, where I'm looking at all the intricacies of our relationship and trying to figure out what remains, and what it was that meant that it wasn't going to sort of last past that very brief period, and how do I make peace with that? And I've definitely, you know, I'm at a point where I'm not too proud now to say that there was a long period where I just, you know, used to wish on eyelashes and on stars, and every opportunity I got to be like, you know, I hope we can find each other in some way, and who knows, that may happen in the future. You know, Michael, you've been so supportive of me and going, look, things take time, and you know, you just never know what can happen. But it is that sense of, well, maybe my wish knew better than I did. Like, I've tried to sort of help things along as best I can, but that wish that I have might mean that it, you know, it's like that thing, like, you know, God always answers your prayers, just not the way you would like him to. You know, it doesn't just go the way that you want it to, but your prayer still gets answered. So yeah, and even down to that sort of end of it where it's like, it's not like I can't feel you still. There is still a connection there, but it's what do we leave behind? What do we lose? And where do we get to the point where at some point we'll reach out to each other, but you know, we just kind of have to leave it. We just have to let it go. So she's a hard one to come to terms with. She's a brutal best friend. Strange, that's for sure.
On many levels, my interpretations are pretty similar to yours, except with perhaps a whole lot more bitterness. I also feel like, for me, Strange, like, it unfolded over a lot more time for me.
Of course.
In that you can read the story of Strange from the beginning of from partway into my 15-year relationship to well after the end of it. And so I really started leaning on it long before the end, and now it makes so much sense to me. Like that, I thought I knew you well. I thought I had read the sky and read a change in your eyes, like you kept on promising change, and I thought that was on the horizon, but then it never came. And then when I woke up to a world that I am not a part of, except when I can play the stranger, for me that was very much a literal thing referring to the rest of the world, because I was hiding so much of what was going on in my life that I really did feel like a stranger in my everyday world. And among the people that I cared about the most, they didn't know. And so here I was being a stranger to everyone except the one person who was a stranger to me. And then, after all, what were you really looking for? I mean, on the other foot, like, you spent 15 years of your life with me and didn't think that I deserved the truth or, you know, respect. So what on earth were you doing? Like, and when will I learn? Because, and then when it gets to I guess I was in deeper than I thought I was. If I have enough love for the both of us.
Yeah, that part's rough.
I so often felt like it was up to me to get us through this. And even if he couldn't gather his wits to get his shit together or treat me the way that I should have been treated, like, I had enough love to see us through whatever we were facing. And then when the bridges froze and you did not come home, that was very literal for me, in that he went to prison. He did not come home for a period, and during that time I was forced to put our snowflake, our very fragile relationship, under a microscope. So what was I really looking for after all of this? And then the last verse is very much after the breakup, because his last time in prison was what really woke me up enough to find the strength to leave. And so when I finally got out of that relationship, and now I'm finally in. The party has begun. Like, I can start living my life now. And then it's not like I can feel you still is so sarcastic to me. It's just that dry, like, yeah, we've broken up, but you're still plaguing me. And like, again, I've mentioned it in a previous episode, the ghost of the ring that I wore for so long, it, like, almost every day I still feel it at some point, and it throws me in right back there. And then you call me one more time. It was 2.5 years after I ended it with him that he finally stopped making contact with me. And so now I must be leaving is that final nod of I really need to move on from this. So yeah, this Strange is a big one. It's sad and beautiful, and it's really, really rough, but it's gentle in in how it presents its toughness, I guess.
And I think she talks about in her interviews and things like this is really about, falling in love, but kind of also understanding that there are core differences, and that, what you might be imagining the relationship is and the reality of what it is can be poles apart. Someone might be selling you, it's kind of that, someone's selling you an idea of your relationship being one thing, but at the end of the day, like, you can't live up to it. And you can often put your relationships on a pedestal, or you can do something that I call, like people who masturbate their relationships, like they kind of just rush through them and just try and like sort of crank them through and just do a whole bunch of stuff and just try and get to the release. And before you know it, like it's like you've talked too much and you've done too many things and you haven't kind of let it come softly. And I feel like this song kind of indicates that as well, as like love shouldn't, doesn't need to be neurotic or heady or reckless. It can be soft, it can be gentle, and it can be an ongoing series of negotiations and conversations and interactions, so that you can really determine how strong that snowflake is. And you don't need a microscope to understand how it works.
So what advice would you give to Virginia then?
So the advice I had, there are a couple sort of two key things, and the first thing that I thought was, I heard something a while ago, which was, in relationships, you're either going to stay together forever or you're going to break up. So, like, you kind of can't, like, the odds are you're either going to be with this person for the rest of your life or you're going to break up with them. And it's really then about whether you break up in a position of security and stability and responsibility or disaster. I lent on a phrase that Kristen Bell said in an interview, and it's one that I feel applies directly to my situation, which was, he was very responsible with my heart, even though he broke it. And I think that's one of the best things you can hope for if you are going to part ways with someone, is that you look at a relationship as it's going and you don't kind of drag it out just because you don't want to be alone, or don't drag it out because you don't have some horrible reason that is more stereotypically why you would break up with someone. Like, sometimes you just have to go because that's just what you have to do. That doesn't have to be some huge, horrendous, catastrophic reason as to why you're no longer with that person. It just, you can acknowledge that you don't have capacity or your direction in life is changing. Don't pull your partner apart to the point where you hate each other. Like that, and don't ruin what good you did have. because you feel like there aren't good enough reasons to break up. Does that make sense? I
Mm.
feel like I'm explaining it really poorly, but it's like I've had breakups before, and I'm like, I'd rather wrap this up now, where there's still a chance of us becoming friends, or at least respecting each other or caring for each
That's
other.
what you said to me.
Yeah, yeah, literally.
You're like, I'm leaving to move overseas in 3 weeks' time. There's no point in us dating until I leave.
Like, yeah, let's call this off now, and let's start building a
Yeah.
better relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really believe that, and I think that is valuable advice to give. And what that permits you to do is fall in love as often as you can. Like, it's just if there's a chance, take it. I think, while there are a bunch of reasons why you should take time and you should be very clear as to whether love is the right thing for you to be doing, but if it is, then my God, just do it, because the chances of them becoming forever things is completely irrelevant. Don't pursue love because it's something that you're supposed to have when you die. Like, just enjoy it for what it is now, and do it whenever you can. Avoiding getting hurt is only going to get you so far.
Yeah. My advice, I decided to hone in on the part where she wakes up to a world of which she's not a part except when she can play a stranger. If you're falling for someone, like, that's great, lean into it. I guess my advice is just make sure the connections you're making are a holistic sort of across your life approach, because if you're falling for someone but you're only sharing one part of your life with them, or they only want one aspect of your life, then they're not getting the whole you, and you're not getting the whole of them. So you've got to just question what the longevity of a relationship is, where you only, like, the only connection you have is you both like going out to clubs.
Sure.
And then everything else is a battleground.
Yeah.
Or not even talked about. Yeah, I guess that's one thought that I had that came from Strange.
For sure. So, the song swap on this episode
is a bit out of control.
So we're just going to
We decided to
do
talk about one song each because we wrote an entire page worth of songs.
So Strange has its own playlist goal. Like,
yeah.
Well, I'll go through mine. So I picked "Wanted" by the Cranberries, Ellie Goulding, "Without Your Love," "Maybe It's My First Time" by Meg Mac, "Cry Your Heart Out" by Adele, and pretty much the entire 30 album. Jillian by Anne Brun. Here I come with my Anne Brun. Actually,
Yes.
Michael sent me this song right in the thick of me struggling with not just my relationship breakup, but a whole bunch of things. So this song really did the job. A song called "Whatever Gets You Through Today" by The Radio, "Go Your Own Way" by Lissy, and a song called "Sparks" by Coldplay, which has a very particular reference point for me as well. But the one I'm going to talk about is a song called "Loose Garment" by Muna. This is on their most recent album, and the thing about this song is, like, Muna just have this way that I don't think anyone is able to do except Tori, which is like, they'll do lyrics and I'm like, mate, are you stalking me? Like, because it's just the specificity of it is bonkers as to what I'm feeling. And so "Loose Garment" is the premise of the song, and literally, like, it opens with, "I've always known that this August was going to be a hard one."
Right.
But it's about sort of saying, my struggle with this relationship being over I used to wear it like a choker. It used to sort of strangle me, and now I'm kind of dragging it like a loose garment, and I'm processing my way through it. And it's no longer got as harsh a hold on me as it used to, but it's still with me. And I just, that's sort of when I listened to that, I was actually, the first time I heard it, I remember I was in the shower and boy, did I cry. So yeah, it's definitely making me, it's definitely another cathartic song, very similar to Strange, that I'm just loving listening to when I need to feel okay in where I'm at in my healing process now. And it's, I've got to say, like, it's embarrassing, you know, to sort of, I know you brought up Better By Now in a previous episode. It's embarrassing to say that I'm not as over it as I wish I were, and I've really toyed on this episode with even talking about some of this stuff, because I'm like, I don't really want people to know that I don't want to identify that maybe I'm not ready to kind of move on and bring this person back into my life. And I've been making some attempts, including as early as this morning, to kind of keep that door open, and kind of I keep having to face that I'm not in the best headspace to be doing that, and it just, you feel like you're failing and you feel ashamed because you don't want to let on that that's what's going on, and that can make things worse if you're not really honest with yourself or honest with the people who love you about how well you are or aren't doing with moving forward. So you kind of do need to be really conscious of your own process of healing, no matter how long it takes.
Absolutely. My songs included Wasting My Young Years by London Grammar.
Yeah.
Lost Cause by Bird Call. What Do You Want by Amanda Mayer. Living Under You by Arctic Lake. Then Special Ones by George, which is quite an angry take on what is a pretty gentle song, but my goodness, Special Ones is fantastic. But the one I want to talk about is Why Waste More Time by Rosie Thomas. This is a song that, I don't know, came out in 2006, and which was like around the time that he first went to prison. And I listened to it so often. Like, it got to the point where on my Last FM Scrobles, or whatever they're called, it was like my top song for the longest time, because it was on repeat constantly. And I would sing along word for word from beginning to end. But did I actually stop to think what those words were? No, I did not. Seems to be my MO. Love a song, perfect for me, don't listen to it.
Even the point where, like, I really like the lyrics, and then, wait a minute, these lyrics.
Yeah, so Why Waste More Time is very pointed in saying, why waste more time? There is nothing left. The voices in your head tell you to do it. And then it's basically like, you know that this relationship is done. And sure, it might be painful. Like, yes, it will be painful to end it. But you're hurting no one but yourself and the other person in it by continuing as well. And like, it doesn't matter what everyone else says. At the end of the day, you know where you're at with this. And so, why waste more time?
Exactly.
And so it's incredibly strong, Strange vibes for me.
I think off the back of that, I want to play you a song called Is It Worth Being Sad? By Meg Mac as well.
We can add that to the list.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many great Meg Mac songs about previous relationships. She's just an incredible soul singer. What I love as well that we're doing with this, particularly with artists like Meg Mac and George, some of these are Australian artists, so you're getting like a sense of, you know, some Australian musicians who aren't Kylie Minogue. So that's a plus too.
You're also getting like a very decent education there.
I'd say so. I would say you're almost getting propaganda.
Oh my god! I'm gonna make that a hashtag with this episode.
Please do. That worked out a lot better than I thought it would.
And tag Anne Brun in it.
Propaganda.
Propaganda. Oh my god, I love it so much. Fantastic.
Well, on that light note, we should probably let you go and listen to the songs and feel your feelings and have a wine and commiserate over your exes.
And send us songs. Like we're saying this is a song swap. We mean it. Like if you've got songs that tie in with any of Scarlet's Walk, the themes that we've been talking about, like send us them.
Oh my god, that'd be heaven.
Like we'll make a playlist. We'll make it public. Like let's do this.
Yeah, we'll pop that up. You can make it. You can just chuck your stuff in. That'd be awesome.
Amazing.
Well, we're on and off on our way through Wednesday territory now, which I know is it's a big end for you. But we are very excited to be headed. We're off to Seattle to spend time with the incredible Dan and their partner Pat in Seattle and hang out with Brian Crawford. And I'm checking out Pandora's Aha Que
Pandora.
I don't know, but her box might be. Oh shit. Once again, thanks so much for hanging with us. We are on this home stretch now, so this is the part where I plug the GoFundMe and all the ways in which you can support us, including sharing this podcast far and wide and engaging with us in whatever way that you can and want to. Michael is still interviewing people for the book.
Yes.
So if you want to have a chat about Scarlet's Walk, you want to chat about music or healing or relationships and trauma and queerness, then do
please
reach out to us.
There's a link on Michael's Walk summary page on my website. So if you just go to michaelherb.net, it's one of the top links there, and then that will show you all of the things that I'm doing for this project, and it will lead you to a form you can fill out to express your interest in being interviewed.
And it doesn't matter where in the world you are.
Yeah, I've got a bunch lined up all over the place that I'll be doing via Zoom once I'm home and settled. It's been delightful doing a few in person on this trip, but I like 90% of them will be taking place via the interwebs.
So thank you all so much for your contributions. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for not being strangers to us in this funny little world. We love you heaps.
And we might not know you well, but you're starting to get to know us well.
Yeah.
So don't be strangers now, you're here.
Yeah, don't, yeah. Y'all come back now.
Y'all come back now, you're here.
The Michael's Walk podcast acknowledges that the journey they are undertaking takes place on the sacred and unceded nations of many proud Indigenous peoples. From the lands of the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, we are fortunate to call home, to each and every Native American tribe's land we'll set foot on as we travel. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and humbly acknowledge their sovereignty.